The war in Ukraine has already drawn in unexpected players, but no one could have predicted the sudden arrival of North Korean reconnaissance soldiers on the battlefield. Who were they really? Were they supporting Russia or testing their own limits? What unfolded next would shock the world and leave a permanent mark on this war's story. This is the story of Azov's deadly encounter. From the very first days, whispers spread across eastern Ukraine of unfamiliar soldiers moving silently through ruined villages and bombed-out streets. Unlike the Russian units they accompanied, these fighters were disciplined, lean, and precise. Operatives trained for specialized reconnaissance. Intelligence hinted that Pyongyang had secretly dispatched small teams to aid Moscow. Scouts, observers, infiltrators, meant to slip in unnoticed, gather intel, and vanish before anyone could react. Every movement they made suggested careful planning, patience, and a chilling confidence that they would remain invisible. For Russia, this deployment was a rare opportunity to signal global alliances, but for Ukraine, it immediately raised the stakes, facing not just Russians, Chechens, and Wagner mercenaries, but also elite North Korean operatives, demonstrated the internationalization of the conflict. It was no longer a regional war, it was a test of global military reach and strategic daring. Every patrol, every convoy movement, every intercepted transmission hinted at a larger presence than anyone had anticipated. The Azov Brigadiers, hardened by months of grueling engagements, immediately sensed the shift. Months of brutal fighting had sharpened their instincts. Unusual patterns in Russian unit movements, ambushes executed with precision and coordination atypical of conscripted troops, hinted that someone else was orchestrating them. The hunters had become the hunted. Azov's teams moved with deliberate caution. Drones scanned shattered roads, collapsed buildings, and abandoned fields, while small squads slipped through rubble and ruins. Every shadow became a clue. Every footprint in the mud, a trail. Intercepted communications revealed short, disciplined bursts of radio chatter, too precise to be Russian. Observers noted their formations, the way they handled equipment, even subtle signs in their footsteps. The evidence was mounting. Elite foreign operatives were in the area, moving like shadows and leaving traces that only experienced fighters could decipher. The breakthrough came when a drone spotted figures moving in tight formation through a tree line. Their posture, the way they signaled silently, and their compact weaponry confirmed it. North Korean scouts had arrived. Azov's reconnaissance unit tracked them relentlessly. For days, the hunters studied their movements, noting timing, patterns, and behavior. They observed their campsites, rations packed methodically, tools arranged meticulously, gear unrecognizable to conventional Russian units. Every detail reinforced the fact that these were not ordinary soldiers. They were specialists, sent for a precise mission. The decision to strike was calculated. The Azov commanders waited for the perfect conditions: mist, terrain, familiarity, and intelligence on the enemy's exact positions. The clash came on a cold, gray morning over an abandoned industrial sector. A dozen scouts slipped among ruined warehouses, seeking vantage points to observe Ukrainian artillery positions. They believed they were invisible, masters of stealth, yet they had unknowingly walked into a trap. Azovs had already set the stage. Snipers held high ground, machine gunners lay in ambush, and drones hovered silently overhead. Mines were planted along expected escape routes. The battlefield had been manipulated to favor Ukraine, transforming ruins into a lethal chessboard. Every step the North Koreans took was anticipated, every route monitored. The first shot shattered the silence, and panic spread instantly among the elite team. Hand signals flashed, shouts echoed in Korean, but every route of escape had been cut. Snipers picked off targets methodically, drones rained grenades into foxholes and collapsed structures, and machine gunners controlled key access points. Attempts to regroup inside a gutted factory were met with relentless precision. Grenades, small arms, and targeted drone strikes reduced the building to rubble. The reconnaissance team, so confident in their training and discipline, was annihilated. By dawn, no one remained. Clearing the site revealed the truth. Documents, equipment, and markings confirmed North Korean involvement. For Ukraine, it was proof that even elite foreign operatives could not breach their defenses. For Russia, it was an embarrassment, a reliance on distant allies who were swiftly defeated. For North Korea, it was a humbling, public failure. Yet amidst the tactics and geopolitics, the human element was undeniable. Azov fighters recalled the eerie silence before the ambush, the rush of adrenaline when the first shots rang out, and the grim realization that these men had traveled thousands of miles only to perish in foreign ruins. Some admitted a begrudging respect for their adversaries. disciplined, skilled, and determined soldiers. But in Ukraine, skill alone was not enough. The story quickly spread beyond the front lines. Analysts debated Pyongyang's motives, loyalty to Moscow or reckless combat experimentation. Western governments condemned the secret involvement, while Ukrainian officials framed it as a stark example of foreign interference in their fight for survival. Every report of the clash was dissected, every satellite image examined. The presence of North Korean operatives had transformed local skirmishes into a global headline. The battlefield itself offered a haunting canvas. Abandoned homes, rusted vehicles, and scorched earth bore witness to both the strategy and the brutality of the encounter. Azov fighters described scanning the mist-covered streets, hearts pounding as they anticipated movement, listening to every sound, interpreting each shadow. It was not just a tactical operation, it was an intricate dance of patience, intelligence, and precision. For the men of Azov, the memory remained simple. The snap of rifles in the mist, shadows darting through ruined walls, and the silence that followed. A recon team had come to test them, but instead they became another chapter in the ongoing story of Ukraine's fierce resistance. Every detail of the engagement, the calculated movements, the silent coordination, the final annihilation sent a clear message. Ukraine would resist, endure, and triumph no matter who entered its soil. The encounter between Azov and the North Korean recon team did more than eliminate a small group of enemy operatives. It shattered assumptions on multiple fronts. Intelligence agencies had long warned of foreign involvement in Ukraine, but few anticipated elite units from a nation halfway across the world showing up on the battlefield. The stakes were no longer just local. This was an international escalation. Analysts around the world began debating Pyongyang's motives. Were these scouts sent as a token of loyalty to Moscow, or was this a deliberate experiment to test North Korea's operatives in real-world combat conditions? Either way, the presence of these soldiers challenged the perception of Ukraine as a contained conflict. Suddenly, the war became a proving ground not just for Russian forces, but for foreign militaries as well. For the Azov Brigade, the stakes were personal and tactical. Months of grueling combat had trained them to anticipate unusual patterns, to read the battlefield like a living map, and to respond with deadly precision. Yet even their hardened instincts were tested to the limit. The North Korean unit moved with extraordinary discipline, avoiding open ground, communicating silently, and exploiting terrain with expert efficiency. The encounter escalated into a deadly chess game, each side probing for weaknesses, calculating risks, and testing reactions. When the ambush finally unfolded, the tactical brilliance of Azov overwhelmed the intruders. Snipers eliminated targets with clinical accuracy, drones delivered precise strikes, and coordinated infantry maneuvers sealed every avenue of escape. Within hours, the recon team was annihilated. The aftermath was a revelation. Documents, equipment, and markings confirmed beyond doubt that these were elite North Korean soldiers. The implications were global. Russia had exposed a reliance on foreign allies, and North Korea had suffered a public and humiliating defeat. Yet for Ukraine, the victory was about more than geopolitics. It was about survival, resilience, and sending an unmistakable signal to anyone considering intervention. Beyond the battlefield, the human element remained. Azov fighters recounted the eerie calm before the strike, the surge of adrenaline during the engagement, and the silence that followed. There was a grudging respect for the skill and determination of their adversaries, but it was paired with a certainty that, on Ukrainian soil, discipline and training alone would not prevail against resolve and strategy. This confrontation underscored a fundamental truth. Ukraine's defenders are adaptable, resilient, and lethal, even against enemies with advanced training and foreign backing. Demonstrating the skill, training, and foreign backing, the destruction of the North Korean recon team sent a clear message worldwide. Foreign operatives, no matter how elite, face the same fate as any other adversary in Ukraine. The war is unforgiving, the stakes are global, and Ukraine remains resolute. For viewers, this is more than a story of military tactics. It is a lesson in vigilance, determination, and the high cost of underestimating a nation defending its sovereignty. This is a costless lesson, a lesson one that any nation should rise up and resist.